A young woman crashes her car on a cold, snow-covered road in rural New Hampshire. A neighbor offers to call for help, but she declines. 10 minutes later, police arrive, and she's gone. No footprints, no phone calls, no sign of a struggle. Just an empty car on the side of a quiet road, and a mystery that has remained unsolved for more than 2 decades. Her name was Maura Murray. She was 21 years old, a college student, a daughter, a friend. And what happened to her that February night in 2004 has haunted internet sleuths, private investigators, and her own family ever since. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened, but the circumstances of her disappearance are filled with bizarre details, suspicious behaviors, and a timeline that makes almost no sense. Her story is more than just a missing persons case. It's a puzzle with too many pieces that don't fit. Welcome to True Crime Radar. This is the channel where we dissect real-life mysteries, cold cases, and disappearances that remain unsolved to this day. We go beyond the headlines. We dig into the timelines, the evidence, the police reports, and we ask the questions that still don't have answers. In this video, we're going deep into the disappearance of Maura Murray. You'll learn the full story, from the final hours before she vanished to the most credible and disturbing theories surrounding her fate. We'll break down the facts. We'll walk through the timeline minute by minute. We'll explore the strange clues left behind and the major questions that still surround this case. So if you're into real crime stories that haven't been solved, if you're the kind of person who needs to know what really happened, stick around. You might just notice something others have missed. Because the truth, it's still out there. This is the disappearance of Maura Murray. Before the strange events of February 9th, 2004, Maura Murray was, by all outward appearances, a young woman with a bright future. She was 21 years old, studying nursing at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and came from a close-knit Irish Catholic family in Massachusetts. By many accounts, Maura was intelligent, athletic, and driven. She had been a standout student, a track star in high school, and even spent a year at the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point before transferring to UMass. But beneath the surface, there were signs that Maura's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Maura had encountered several troubling incidents. She was involved in a car accident while driving her father's vehicle late one night, just days before she went missing. Though the damage was brushed off publicly, some family members have hinted that this event may have shaken her emotionally. More concerning was a bizarre incident at her campus job as a security guard. One night, Maura reportedly broke down in tears while on duty. Her supervisor found her in a near catatonic state, repeating the phrase, "My sister." It was later revealed that Maura had spoken to her sister earlier that evening, and the conversation may have triggered something deeply emotional. The details of that call remain unclear. Then there was the credit card incident. A few months earlier, Maura had been caught using someone else's credit card to order food. While it didn't result in major legal trouble, it raised questions about her judgment and whether she was under more pressure than she let on. At the same time, Maura had a long-distance boyfriend, Billy Rausch, who was stationed in Oklahoma with the military. Some emails suggest that their relationship was under strain, possibly due to infidelity or emotional distance. Whether this played a role in her final decision to leave Amherst is still debated today. Altogether, these moments paint a portrait not of a criminal, but a young woman quietly unraveling, struggling with pressures most people didn't see. But what was she running from? And more importantly, where was she going? February 9th, 2004. It was a Monday, a cold one. Snow blanketed much of New England, and temperatures hovered around freezing. At the University of Massachusetts Amherst, classes had resumed after the weekend, but Maura Murray was making different plans. That morning, she emailed her professors to say she'd be missing class for a few days. Her excuse? A death in the family.
But there hadn't been one. It was a lie, and no one knows why she told it. Maura also reached out to her boyfriend and workplace, saying she'd be gone for a few days due to a family emergency. She then withdrew $280 from her bank account, nearly everything she had. She bought some alcohol, including a box of Franzia wine and a few other items from a liquor store. She also picked up accident report forms from the Massachusetts Registry of Motor Vehicles, possibly to deal with the crash she'd had just 2 days prior in her dad's car. By early afternoon, Maura packed some clothes, her textbooks, toiletries, and left campus. She drove her black 1996 Saturn sedan north toward New Hampshire, with no clear destination, only a vague sense that she was heading to the White Mountains. By 7:27 p.m., she was in Haverhill, a rural town in western New Hampshire. That's when her car went off the road on Route 112, also known as Wild Ammonoosuc Road. A local school bus driver, Butch Atwood, who lived nearby, stopped and asked if she needed help. Maura told him no, she had already called AAA. But phone records later confirmed no such call was ever made. Atwood returned home and called the police at 7:43 p.m. When officers arrived just after 7:45 p.m., Maura Murray and everything she had with her was gone. Her car was locked, the windshield was cracked, a box of wine was in the back seat, and a rag was stuffed in the tailpipe. There were no footprints in the snow leading away from the crash site, no signs of a struggle, no indication she had walked off. It was as if she had vanished into thin air.
When police arrived at the crash site just minutes after the 911 call, they were expecting to find a young woman waiting for help. Instead, they found her car, damaged but intact, and no sign of Maura Murray. What followed in the first 24 hours would shape this case forever. The black Saturn's driver's side door was locked. Inside the car, police found her school books, some clothes, and a box of wine partially spilled. The keys and her phone were nowhere to be found. A soda bottle in the car smelled of alcohol. It appeared she may have been drinking, though that's never been confirmed. Then there was the rag. A piece of cloth had been stuffed into the tailpipe of Maura's car. Her father, Fred Murray, later said he had taught her to do that if a car was smoking to limp it home. But others believe it may have been an attempt to disable the vehicle, or worse, cover up an intentional crash. There were no footprints leading away from the scene. Despite the snow on the ground, that should have left a trail if she walked into the woods or down the road. Police dogs tracked no meaningful scent. Search teams found nothing. It was as if Maura had disappeared into thin air within a window of just 7 to 10 minutes. So, what happened? Some believe Maura ran off into the woods, perhaps intoxicated or injured, and succumbed to the elements. But that theory doesn't explain the lack of tracks or scent. Others think she may have been picked up by a passerby, possibly someone she knew or someone random. The road was rural, but not empty. It's possible someone saw the accident and offered help, then took her away under more sinister circumstances. A third theory is that Maura staged the crash to disappear deliberately. But if so, where did she go? Why leave behind her belongings? Why not use her bank cards or phone ever again? The more you look at this case, the stranger it becomes. For every question answered, 2 more emerge. And the deeper you go, the more the theories start to divide. At the heart of the Maura Murray case are the theories, dozens of them, some rooted in evidence, others in speculation. And as the years have passed, the internet has only fueled more possibilities, some haunting, some hopeful, and some deeply disturbing. Let's start with the escape theory. This idea suggests Maura had been planning to disappear, that she felt overwhelmed by her personal life, the recent car accident, academic stress, and a rocky relationship, and decided to vanish and start over. The lies she told her professors about a family death, her withdrawal of nearly all her money, and the route she took to New Hampshire support the idea that she may have been deliberately running from something. But this theory has a serious flaw. There's never been a single confirmed sighting of Maura since that night. No bank activity, no social media, no contact with her family or boyfriend. Even skilled private investigators haven't been able to find any trace of her living under a new identity. Next is the abduction theory. This is the most widely accepted explanation. According to this theory, Maura crashed her car, or intentionally stopped, and was picked up by a stranger. Someone who saw her alone and vulnerable on a dark, rural road and took advantage of the situation. The complete lack of evidence at the scene supports this. No tracks, no scent trail, no struggle. If someone arrived in a vehicle and convinced her to get in, there would be little left behind to indicate what happened. The third major theory is that Maura's disappearance was staged, either by someone close to her or possibly even with her cooperation. Some speculate that she met someone at the crash site, a person she trusted, and things went wrong, or that she planned the entire event, including the crash, to disappear on purpose. But again, why leave behind the most important items? Why no trace for 20 years? Then there are the darker theories: accidental death, cover-up, or even law enforcement involvement. None proven, but each theory leaves just enough questions to keep the mystery alive. And that's what makes the case of Maura Murray so gripping. It refuses to settle.
From the moment Maura Murray vanished, the investigation into her disappearance has been clouded by confusion, conflicting information, and missed opportunities. In many ways, the early hours and days were critical and mishandled. Police initially treated Maura's case as a voluntary disappearance. After all, there was no clear sign of foul play. No blood, no struggle, just an abandoned car on a snowy road. Law enforcement assumed Maura had chosen to walk away from her life, and because of that assumption, crucial time was lost. No Amber Alert was issued, no immediate large-scale search was launched. Her family, particularly her father Fred Murray, didn't buy that narrative for a second. Fred arrived in New Hampshire shortly after learning about the crash. He quickly became frustrated with how the investigation was being handled. He believed from the start that Maura had met with foul play, and he said so loudly and publicly. Fred began organizing his own search efforts, talking to the media, and demanding more from the local police. He's remained one of the most persistent advocates for finding Maura to this day. Over the years, searches were conducted using cadaver dogs, helicopters, and even ground-penetrating radar. Forests were combed, rivers dragged, tips followed up on, but nothing concrete was found. In 2021, state police and FBI agents returned to a wooded property near the crash site based on new evidence shared by a private investigator. A section of ground was excavated after reports of ground disturbances and the presence of cadaver dogs reacting to a scent. But even that search turned up nothing. There have also been a number of unconfirmed sightings over the years, claims that Maura was seen in Canada, Vermont, even as far away as the Midwest. None of them have ever been substantiated. To this day, no suspect has ever been named, no remains found, and no solid lead has broken the case. For Maura's family, the worst part is the silence, the not knowing. Every year that passes brings more questions, fewer answers, and a haunting reality that Maura Murray may never be found, but someone out there knows exactly what happened.